This is the Striped Life Officials Podcast with Jeff Landers.
Well, hello, welcome into the Striped Life Officials Podcast. I am Jeff Landers. It has been a few weeks at the very least, maybe a month or so since I got my last podcast out. Sorry for leaving you guys hanging. I hope you guys have been begging for more. Has not shown up in the email inbox though, so sorry to leave you guys hanging so long if you've been waiting. Email me, stripedlifepod@gmail.com with any questions, comments that you may have for the show, stripedlifepod@gmail.com. Would love to have anybody actually reach out and let me know that they're listening. I have been super busy, and if I haven't been working, I've been on the football field. If I haven't been on the football field, I've been working on the house. The house we bought in August, we moved in late August, and have been working ever since. And the saying goes, when it rains, it pours. And when you buy a new house and it pours and you find your basement flooded. And it was actually a good thing we discovered it because we could get it worked on, of course. But the way I discovered it, woke up on a Thursday morning after heavy rains Wednesday night. And there's a sound coming from the basement. Well, what the crap is that? So I run downstairs, and it's coming from the water room downstairs where the water heater is. The water softener it's going through a cycle. The water softener is going through a cycle, and it says brine. Well, the floor in the water room is completely dry, but there's a puddle on the floor outside of the water room. Well, where is this coming from? So we believe that it came from the corner of the foundation that had a crack in it that I had to dig down in, pour some more cement, seal it up first, of course. So if you're a DIYer, you're a homeowner, seal it up, pour a little bit more cement, hope it stays dry the next time it rains. But definitely went around and caulked some windows as well. So been very, very busy. And to be a business owner, a brand new homeowner, and a football official, I feel like I've been on ice skates for 6 weeks now. Just absolutely busy and questioning decisions you make. Definitely with buying a house that has a leak in it, and even getting down to flags that you've thrown. You question yourself, and you can stay up at night as long as you want to allow yourself to stay up at night. Well, I will show you one of those later on in the video in this podcast. I've got video for you from the National Federation of High School Network, the NFHS network, and from Huddle as well. But some rules reference. This is going to be a football podcast for those of you listening to basketball. We'll turn that way here in the next maybe month, 6 weeks as we flip into November. Junior high games will get rolling. I'm sure I'll get on the court for a few of those before the varsity season, but primarily football podcast here today. And I've got some rules questions for you as I now struggle to find my rule book and wherever it went to. Well, that's just dandy as I lose the rule book. There it is. It's got all my references in it. The first question was, does the offensive team have to huddle in order to be called for an illegal substitution for 12 men on the field? ? This happened in my JV game last night. For those of you who know our district, it was one of the teams that no one wants to work. No one wants to work this team. A JV game, that sideline. Does the offensive team have to huddle in order to be called for an illegal substitution for 12 men on the field? I'm the back judge working in this JV game, and the sideline immediately starts screaming when the referee threw the flag for 12 men on the field that they never huddled. We never huddled. We never huddled. Like their screaming is going to make a difference in how we adjudicate the rules. Well, the question to the answer is no, and the rule is going to be 3-7-1 on this one. So 3-7-1 in substitutions from the rule book, and I'll hold it up for you. National Federation of High School Rule Book right there. Between downs, any number of eligible substitutes may replace players. Upon meeting the criteria of 232.12, replaced players shall begin to leave the field within 3 seconds. So that does not matter whether you huddled or did not huddle. If you have 12 men on the field for more than, and honestly, you're probably going to have 5-6 seconds. So 3 seconds is the rule. A reasonable adjudicator is probably going to look around. Okay, it's been 5 seconds. Are they? The snap is, they're lined up. Okay, so here's the snap. The one's now running off. It's been long enough. You have an illegal substitution. Because anybody who's going to stick you to that exactly 3 seconds, it's just like in basketball. If you're sticking to 3 seconds in basketball in the lane, you're going to have a long, long night. So a proper adjudicator is probably going to give you some reasonable leeway, but you do not have to huddle to be called for 12 men on the field as an offense. The second rules reference I have: can a quarterback spike the ball to conserve time if he muffed or fumbled the snap? Now, I got this one because, again, major Bills fan here. You know me. You know that I follow the Bills life and death. And they recently played the Miami Dolphins. So that was week 3 in that game. And it was right before half. Josh Allen got up to spike the ball to conserve time so that they could kick a field goal. Well, he fumbled the ball. He muffed it, really. He didn't even fumble it. He muffed it. He just bobbled it just a little bit. Well, apparently in the NFL, and I have not looked up the NFL rule on this. Apparently in the NFL, you cannot spike it there. So he just turned and fired to Stephon Diggs for a play. And Diggs did not get out of bounds in time to conserve time on the clock. Clock went to 0, went to halftime. They did not get the field goal off. So that had me thinking, well, can we do that at National Federation level in the NFHS rulebook? And again, the answer is no. This time the rule is 7352, exception 1. So if we can grab it here on my bookmark. 7352, exception 1. It is legal for a player positioned directly behind the snapper to conserve time by intentionally throwing the ball forward to the ground immediately after receiving the snap that has neither been muffed nor touched the ground. So you cannot spike the ball to conserve time if you have muffed or fumbled the snap. You have to have a clean snap. Now, it does not matter whether you are under center or in shotgun. I do believe they put that shotgun rule in recently, whether it was this year or a few years ago. I'm not quite sure, but you can be directly behind the snapper. So you can be in shotgun or under center for that one. The last one I have for you: how much contact is required to rule a wide receiver as forced out by the defensive back in order to avoid an illegal participation flag? How much contact? Now, this is going to be a lot of philosophy on this one for the white hat that I was working. This happened in the same game that I'm going to show you later with those flags that I questioned myself. And my white hat on that game was, if there's any sort of contact, this is what he told me, if there's any sort of contact, rule it forced out. Whether the receiver went out intentionally, but he was then touched, that can be remain debatable. But if you have a wide receiver who's going down the field for a pass and he goes out of bounds and he's touched at all by the defensive back, rule it a forced out. That was his perception. So ask your local white hats on your crew chiefs or your crew chiefs, your rules interpreter in your district or your association, what they might think of that and what level of contact rises to force out a wide receiver. Because that was my question to him. I threw my hat through the flag after the receiver came back in and caught the ball for a big gain. Was what level of contact does there have to be? Because if there's any sort of contact whatsoever, rule them as forced out. We waved off the flag. Big gain happened, maybe 30 yards or so, but they did not score a touchdown, I believe, on that drive. So the rule reference is 961, illegal participation. Prior to a change of possession, or when there is no change of possession, no player of A or K shall go out of bounds and return to the field during the down unless blocked out of bounds by an opponent. So that's your exception written inside the rule, unless blocked out of bounds by an opponent. If a player is blocked out of bounds by an opponent and returns to the field during the down, he shall return at the first opportunity. Now, there's another gray area at the first opportunity. What is the first opportunity? So those are your 3 rule references for your football officials that have come up in my games recently as a wing and as watching as a back judge last night. So moving on, I do want to show you a holding call. And I talked about, very busy and we can let our minds wander as much as possible. So in order to do that, I'm going to share my screen here. Well, let's show you the video first here. I am the wing in this video. I am the wing judge on the near side, and you're going to be watching the near side wideout, the player closest to your screen for black. And it was a holding call, and I want to know, I'm going to show you the NFHS video once, and then I'm going to go into huddle and get you a good look at it. So here's the NFHS video. Thank you to the National Federation of High Schools Network for letting me screen grab this. And show you again so I can get you a better look. One more look from the NFHS camera.
Come up to the press box.
On that wide receiver, he had a fistful of jersey in the right hand, which just held him up enough from getting to that point of attack. And then, and I'll show you this on the huddle camera, watch his hands as he grabs the defensive back's hands and whips him to the ground. So I want to know what your thoughts are, and you can email me at stripedlifepod@gmail.com. So here we go. Add to stream. We're going to go over here, and hopefully you guys are seeing this. I'm going to go here. This is the first time I've done this, so bear with me, guys. Here it is. Again, the near side wide receiver right here. I hope you can see my mouse. For those of you listening, I'm sorry. Here we go with the video. Does he hold him long enough and then snap him to the ground? I want to know what your calls are, because from my angle, this looked like a holding call right at the point of attack. And I watched this 200 times that night after the game, looking at this from the huddle camera and from the National Federation of High School camera. And I watched it 200 times. I got 100 holds and 100 no calls. So you can beat yourself up over all the calls you want, guys, and still get a 50-50 call just like this. And of course, I called it back. So questioning decisions, what we talked about earlier in the show, and this one was the questionable. Right about there, he looks good on that left arm. But right here, if you can see it, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that fistful of jersey come from the right side. And then watch his hands as he snaps the guy down. He's trying to get to the ball carrier, and all of a sudden he's in a dive at the feet, which I don't think he intended to. So that one came back. That's what I have for you on that one. So again, let me know. I gave it to my commissioner, and I hope they reviewed it at the film session that I could not make that night. And commissioner says, yeah, that's a 50-50 call. And since it was in the fourth quarter, Jeff, make it bigger. Put the flag in your pocket. Make it a bigger call than that since it was in the fourth quarter. So again, questioning decisions. We can always, whenever you buy a house, you're going to have questions, and hindsight is 20/20. And of course, looking back on high school football video as an official, hindsight, of course, is 20/20. So a couple more topics. There was an article written on the website Fatherly that I want to get to. And that article was titled 27 Life-Changing Micro Habits. I can't read my own handwriting. 27 life-changing micro habits that require only a few minutes. And this was written by Adam Bolger. And again, on Fatherly. And I'll pick out the top 5. We're not going to discuss the whole 27. Number 5, we'll count them down. Number 5, move your bedtime up by 2 minutes. Now, you might be thinking, what does 2 minutes really have to do? Well, gentlemen, 2 minutes can be very much a long time. So if you can get that 2 minutes of extra sleep, just move it up by 2 minutes. Maybe try that for a week and then move it up by 2 minutes again. Just to maybe even quiet the mind, settle your mind before bedtime. Number 4, stretch for 15 to 30 seconds before you get dressed. I'm always a fan of stretching. And I've crossed a middle age when I have to stretch before going to bed. Otherwise, I'm going to wake up even more sore than I do on a normal day, especially after doubleheader football game. Had a doubleheader football game last night, JV and freshman back to back. Had to stretch, had to get the Theragun out before bed. Number 3, always put one thing away before you leave whatever room you're in. Now, if I wanted to let you into the cluttered mind that my mind is, I would just turn the camera around and show you my office here and even my desk here. It's cluttered. I don't feel like there's anything for anywhere to go. It's not hoarder level. I'm not a hoarder, but it is a little bit of disorganization, just a little bit. So put one thing away before you leave whatever room you're in. Clutter equals stress. And I can tell you in my wife's mind, that is absolutely true. When there's clutter, there's stress, and it affects you. Number 2, perform 30 seconds of breathing exercises as you wait for your coffee to brew or whatever you're doing. Maybe you're waiting for breakfast to cook, those eggs to fry up, whatever you're doing. Maybe you don't drink coffee, but 30 seconds of breathing exercises as you wait for your coffee to brew. Deep breath, because I've been talking so much, but always a good way to get in out of your mind is to take a deep breath in. Breathing always helps relieve that stress. And number 1, and those of you who know me, I drink a lot of water. Drink a cup of water before your morning coffee, because coffee is an elixir that can dehydrate you just a little bit. Drink a cup of water before your morning coffee. Thank you to Adam Bolger for the 27 micro habits on fatherly.com. And I have a note here as fellowship. Midway point of the season, a lot of you guys, hopefully you're coming up on it, or if you have crossed it, hopefully you guys have been getting good fellowship out of your travel, out of your games, good discussion, getting closer to the guys that you're working with. Certainly had that last Friday night as I was going to my varsity game up north of here. It was just me and another guy traveling in this party to the game, a crew of 5, and just had really good talk, really, really great talk. And now we are very similar as well. And I keep finding myself in cars with similar guys. Now, we're all in the same boat. We're all football officials, so we're probably all going to be similar. But if people were different than me, it still would try to give them the same effort into connecting with them, whether it's different beliefs. I'm a religious person, and the person I was in the car with was also a religious person, different faith, but it's a little easier to connect on that. But let's say I didn't have a religious, or I had an atheist person. I do have an atheist friend who is a football coach, and it's a little bit harder to get into that topic, but other topics you can kind of break down those walls. We're both fathers, so maybe you get into that subject. So give people who are different minded from you the same effort to connect to them, and then maybe that'll make it a little bit easier to break down those walls. But just make sure you guys are having good fellowship out there. And then I heard a term earlier this week. It's called the zone of comfortable complacency. The zone of comfortable complacency. If we've reached that midpoint of the season where The excitement for the season where we're going to do our very best every single play, that's worn off by now. Perhaps you've had 4 or 5 duds of a game in a row because you have to work a dozen dud games to get a really, really good one. We know what that ratio is as referees. It's very easy for us to zone out at this point of the season. The playoffs aren't close. The start of the season is long in the rear view mirror. Don't get complacent. Be on your toes every single snap. Make sure you get in your pre-snap routine. There's the whistle. Last night I was the back judge. Okay, I got the whistle. Look around. Okay, we're good. Start the play clock. Give it that pause is what I was doing, and I did not have to throw a flag whatsoever for delay a game, which was awesome. And the teams adjusted. To it as well. That's what I've found out is play clocks. If you keep a tight play clock early on, they'll adjust. If you loosen the play clock early on and then tighten it up, they'll adjust, because when that arm goes up and you're counting 10, it kind of puts the fear into coaches of either having to burn a timeout or get the penalty. Which sidetrack, which I do a lot, by the way, sidetrack. If there's a mathematician out there who can pull up an equation, or an algorithm is the word I'm thinking of. Can you give me an equation or an algorithm that demonstrates the value of a timeout versus a 5-yard penalty? Because as a Bills fan, 17 years, no playoffs, and I watched it constantly. Teams would get into the huddle late. They would break the huddle late, and it's 5 minutes into the first quarter, and they call a timeout to avoid a 5-yard penalty on, let's say, 2nd and 5. There's a part of me that would say, keep your timeout. I guess I'm talking to coaches and fans now. Keep your timeout. Save it for the end of the half, because I almost think that the value of your timeout increases the later in the half you go. So, the value of your timeout in the first isn't very high here, but then as you get into the second and into the 2-minute warning, it almost exponentially increases. So, sidetrack, help teams avoid referees, officials, back judges keeping the play clock. Help teams avoid using their timeouts early by giving good signals and having a good play clock mechanics. Didn't have that one written down, but off the top of my head, absolutely. So zone of comfortable complacency, guys. Do not get comfortable. Do not get complacent out there in your games. It's Friday night. I got to go home, trim this up. I know some of you are probably screaming at the computer because I have facial hair, but I am with Paul Diaspora on this one. Facial hair, tattoos don't matter in officiating. If you can have facial hair and tattoos while serving our country, you can do it while serving a football game or even a basketball game. Just my opinion, guys. Again, write to me, stripedlifepod@gmail.com for any comments, questions, and show topics you might want to see. But for now, this is Striped Life Officials. I am Jeff Landers. Have great games this weekend, and go get them.
Thank you for listening to Striped Life Officials. Go slow.